you often hear INFJs described as insightful, caring, nice. While these characteristics are true, they can kind of be really attributed to anyone and aren't specific to the INFJ. So today let's talk about some traits that are lesser known about the INFJ, some traits that don't immediately come to mind when you think of an INFJ. Number one, INFJs tend to put on a face all day long. This is not to say that INFJs are fake or inauthentic. It's just that INFJs have such a high priority for the feelings of others, so much so to the point that we are willing to suppress ourselves in order to meet the emotional needs of those in our environment. So if INFJs did not put on a face all day long, we'd most definitely be saying stuff like, Heather, stop talking to me about your cats. I don't care. Or, Ted, you're mumbling. I can't understand a single thing you're saying, so please release me as your conversational hostage. Again, I'm not saying that INFJs are internally actually really mean people, because we really genuinely do care about people. We don't dislike you or want something bad to happen to you, but it's just kind of like when you're speaking with a 5-year-old, like you like them and you think they're cute and they're jabbering on and on about something cute, and it's like that stuff is only important to them. It possesses no interest to you whatsoever. But you're gonna sit there and you're gonna listen and you're gonna smile even though you don't really want to, because you're not about to tell them that they're boring you and crush their minuscule little joy that comes from releasing their thoughts on you. That's what it's like to be an INFJ. We really care about people, we love people, but we just find that most people don't really care about the same things that we care about. So we just put on a face and react positively in order to keep up the social harmony. Number two, INFJs stay mentally exhausted. It comes a little bit from having to put on a face all day long. That, in addition to what INFJs do best, wondering all the time. INFJs have dominant introverted intuition, so this means that we go through life collecting information in our subconscious database of thoughts, and as we continue to go through life and gather new information, we're constantly in our heads trying to puzzle new information with pre-existing information in our heads, and then we're asking, are any of these concepts related, and if so, how are they related? What does the sum of all of this information mean, or what does it indicate? And those questions can't always be so easily answered, and so it can make us frustrated and thus mentally exhausted. So our introverted intuition, or the pilot or the main mode in which we operate, causes us to stay in a slightly mentally exhausted state. And this is why INFJs can tend to just get a little anxious or get easily overwhelmed. Number three, we know more than we let you know we know.
They don't know that we know they know we know.
So what I mean is INFJs tend to be a little slower to process and register information. So Wences, who is a fellow INFJ YouTuber, made a video called The Exceptional INFJ Learning Style, and she described how INFJs tend to not learn the way that other people do. Most people learn in a linear fashion, like first they learn, okay, first I do this, and then second I do this, and then next I do this. But because the INFJ's dominant cognitive function is introverted intuition, and then our tertiary function is introverted thinking, this NI and TI duo makes the INFJ want to gather and organize information and piece it all together to see the bigger picture, not just looking at things like a single entity existing independently, but we want to see everything in its entire context. So we don't want to receive a picture and look at it in a linear fashion, like first I'm going to look at the left side, next I'm going to look at the middle, next I'm going to look at the right. The INFJ wants to be able to see the entire picture and to be able to see the overall arching theme, so that we can see how everything within this picture contributes to the overall theme of the picture, what every what everything's function is. But this approach that we innately have will tend to cause us to take a little bit longer to pick up on information. So if you were studying a picture in a linear fashion, like first looking at this region of the picture and then this region and then this region, you would be able to pick up on details a little bit more quickly. And if anyone asked you, what are you looking at, you would be able to answer with a lot of certainty. But since INFJs tend to observe a picture or a situation in a zoomed out fashion, or how Wins is described as a bird's eye view, if you asked an INFJ, what are you looking at, they wouldn't be able to answer as quickly, and then you might scoff at the INFJ and think that they must be dumb because they're obviously looking at this picture, but they don't know what they're looking at. But then once the INFJ has finished looking at the picture in its entirety, the INFJ will be able to give a much more in-depth explanation and a much more analytical answer to your question of what are you looking at. And this is an analogy for what real life is like for an INFJ. INFJs tend to be impartial when dealing with information because we just want to understand it for what it is, not for just our mere perception or our mere opinion of it. We want to understand it for what it means or its function amongst the greater scheme of things and not just for its isolated existence. So when people ask us, what do you think about this topic, or how do you think we should go about doing this thing, we INFJs will just be like, I don't know. But once the INFJ has been given enough time to analyze the situation as a whole and to look at its ins and outs, then the INFJ will know all sides to the situation and will be an expert on it, and they will end up knowing even more than you. So INFJs may appear a little bit slow at first, but with their NI and TI, they end up being able to see things on an entirely different level than everyone else. And they will end up knowing this thing even better and more intimately than most people. But they won't flaunt the fact, and they will continue to just let people assume that they're slow and dumb because, hey, if you're going to judge us in the first place, then you don't really deserve to know who we are anyway, and we aren't going to waste our energy trying to prove ourselves to some judgmental poo-poo head. Number 4, INFJs are always trying to be better people. INFJs have an innate strive for perfectionism, and this includes how we live our lives. INFJs are future-focused people, so we're always looking ahead, and this will tend to make us ask ourselves, what do I need to be doing? How can I be a better person today to ensure a better future tomorrow? How can I be kinder? How can I be more knowledgeable and competent? How can I be wiser with my money and investments? How can I improve my relationships with my loved ones? Because we are always trying to improve ourselves in order to ensure the best possible future. INFJs can get prone to getting a little anxious and sad, especially when we feel like we're putting in the work and we're trying hard to be better people and do better things in the world, but then we don't really see that our efforts are amounting up to anything. So people can tend to just see the result of this, that INFJs can be kind of melancholy and serious individuals, but the reason why is because we take self-growth seriously, very seriously, and we're always trying to be the best versions of ourselves. So forgive us if we come off a little bit antsy or glum sometimes. Number 5, INFJs experience life in a much different way than most people do. So the way that INFJs exists is very profound. It's mysterious even to us. So you can watch my video called The INFJ Alien Complex to learn a little bit more about the strange way in which INFJs perceive life and the world and existence. But essentially, our introverted intuition tends to make us go through life like we're just watching ourselves in a movie. Like we're not really living our lives, but more so we're just outside of our bodies and watching ourselves go through the motions of life. So if you find that really weird or even unfathomable, then know that that's the reason why INFJs are so poorly understood. I've explained the INFJ's way of existing is kind of like seeing ghosts, like that kid from that movie, The Sixth Sense, the I See Dead People kid. So we kind of just pick up on this other wavelength that everyone else seems to be completely unaware of, and we can't even begin to explain what it is to others, because how do you explain a wavelength to someone? How do you explain color to a colorblind person? How do you explain sound to a deaf person? There is just this sense that we get that we can't explain to others, and it causes us to perceive life very differently and behave differently than everyone else, and people don't understand where it's coming from. They just see the result of it in our personality, that we're just kind of weird, we're just kind of mysterious, we just seem slightly off, and we can't put a finger on it, and no one can really put a finger on why we're just a little bit off. It's because we're experiencing life in a much different way than everyone else is. And I can't really explain it more than that. I'm not saying like we're so special and everyone else isn't. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we admittedly are weird, but trust us when we say there's a reason and we just can't explain it. And even if we had the language to explain it, you probably still wouldn't be able to understand. So that's all for today's video. I hope that you learned something new about this unique personality type. If you're an INFJ, then please comment below what are some characteristics about INFJs that you think people don't readily know. And I will see you in my next video.